Good evening. Oh, that was pretty good for this size. That's great. And I hear there were even it was a I don't know if it was a fake Canada Day, but we had Canada Day. You were at that? All right. Who went to Canada Day? Well done. I think that's awesome that you guys get together and do it. So today is kind of my third in our series. We first talked about what is happiness and tried to at least explore that idea a little. Then we went a little deeper and went down to look at what is the meaning of life. Maybe too deep, but we worked our way down and we came up with some ideas on what is meaning. And part of that then is what is legacy? What comes after we have meaning? What is our legacy? And you can look at it in a couple of different ways. One might be, a more morbid way, but think about your tombstone. What do you write on your tombstone that is your legacy? Or just who are you kind of thing. So with that in mind, what do you think about what is legacy? Not necessarily your personal one, but in general, what's a legacy? Children. And by the way, this is, and for those watching at home, this is a forum, which means that you guys get to drive the process. So, children, go ahead. What else? What you leave behind. Is it to anyone or any special group? Leaving behind something, I heard the last part made an impact, but something that said you were here? Yes, okay. What else? What you did in your profession. Life story. Anything different? What others think of you. Life impact? Yeah, so all of those I think are true, and we'll look at it from a bit of a scholastic or scholarly perspective. What have some sociologists said? But I wanted to start with just kind of an overview video that talks about legacy.
Legacies transcend the boundaries of time. We create them with or without our knowledge. Our words, our deeds, all pieced together, will form the history we leave behind. They are told, shown, held, felt. Memories we absent-mindedly create for countless tomorrows. Legacies are roads left paved for those that will follow. They leave trails filled with reflective ideals. They are monumental. They are minimal, but they are never forgotten. Children, grandchildren, neighborhoods, co-workers, friends, enemies, the lives of those around us inherit the story we leave behind. They make their way to everywhere, through tale or virtue. Legacies stand tall in the face of trial. They prevail. They're found in risk that clings to the promise of hope. Legacies can be found in tattered souls and wrinkles aged with wisdom. They make their way to empty rooms and trailing heartbeats. They find their way into the back of our minds, sit with us, lingering, waiting to be remembered. Found in humbled homes, inherited mansions, and tin-roofed rooms, legacies extend past the limited hours of your life and mine. Where have you seen them? Where have you taken them in? What will your name leave behind? Legacies test all boundaries. Legacies find no limits. Legacies light the way. Legacies lead. The choice is yours. What will be your legacy?
Yeah, so as you watched that, which parts kind of stood out to you? Legacy does not what? Does not define time. Say that again, one more time. Okay. What else? Yeah, I think, I mean, and I think that spoke to that really well, which is I tend to think of legacy as this grand thing that we're doing. That it's this idea that I'm going to have legacy and I'm going to do this and I'm going to plant that tree and I'm going to build that building. And yet, legacy is every day, every choice, everything we do, someone's watching. And you never know when that speaks into their life. I think that's really profound. Yeah, what else? Over here, I saw a hand. Yeah, well, all right, so 99% of the impact you make in your life, you'll never know you made it. And I think that can be positive or negative. So, what does that mean to us? If you take those two comments and put them together, what does that mean about our actions in life? That we should be intentional. What else? It makes a difference. I would add that our character is something that's on display at all times, whether we know it or not. And by character, I mean it's not just pious character or bad character or whatever. It's just who we are. We're impacting those around us. We're not in a vacuum. So those are all great comments. Any more before we go on? The middle section was kind of quiet. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. So, as a teacher, she's saying two sides, which is one, she was able, as many of us were, on that cusp from not computer to computer. For me, it happened in grad school. For others, a little bit earlier, some later. But all of a sudden, you're making a difference by saying this technology will change your life. And on the other, as a teacher, being able to say to a student, do you want to shake my hand goodbye or good morning, or do you want to hug me? And being able to speak into their lives with love, essentially as well. So yeah, great comments. So if we look at it, I want to talk about the concept of legacy. What's is it scholastically? And then what are the types? How do we define it? And we've touched on a few of those, but I'll dive a little bit deeper. And then ultimately, this is a homework assignment on how do you create legacy in your lives. And I'll have a few steps that we can walk through. So first of all, how would you define it? If throw out just a couple of words again. If you were to just say one word, what is legacy? Or 2 words or 3 words, but just throw out some ideas. Impact, actions, memorable, presence. Yeah, is it internal? Is my legacy in me, or is my legacy outside of me? Outside it. Okay, so here are some. Property is one of the things that keeps coming up when you do a search. And it's not unsurprising, because when we think of legacy, several of us have legacy homes. I have a legacy car, but some of us have legacy homes, or we're going to plant that tree or build that building. But it can be property or things. It can be wealth is a legacy. Heirlooms. I talked to somebody on the ship who said, my kids get nothing but jewelry. So it can be that. Or if you look it up in the dictionary, it is something transmitted by or received from an ancestor or predecessor, or from the past. And that encompasses a lot of what we've talked about. It can be tangible, but it can also be intangible as we pass that on. But everybody does have a legacy. Whether we think we do or not, we are all impacting others. And we have a chance now where before in life, money and time, we were pursuing money, we were pursuing career. Most of us now have enough money that we're satisfied. We're not longer pursuing career. We have that time to pour into others, and time being the most precious finite resource. So being intentional. Now, your homework assignment, and this is really dangerous as a teacher, you'll know, if I give you your homework assignment now, for the next 25 minutes, I've lost you. But I'm going to take the risk. So your homework assignment at the end of this class, or perhaps later in the hallway, is I would love for you to create a 3 to 6 word legacy statement. So what is your legacy? And clearly we're not grading this, but be thinking, because I'm going to ask you if you have come up with and can share a 3 to 6 word legacy. So as we kind of go through this, think about your life and what is your impact outside of yourself, but your impact on others. So if we look at tangible legacies, things you can touch, what are some? Tangible legacies. Money, monuments, your grandmother's recipe box. That's a legacy. I think that's a great by the way, that's Nancy. I got to say that. But I do think it's a great answer, because it has nothing to do with wealth, but it has a whole lot to do with who they were. And they're giving that to you. What else? Photos. Other ideas? Eulogy. All right, so wealth and assets. We touched on that. Businesses. So many of us have businesses that we have passed on, and that's part of our legacy. It's this idea of creation. that we're able to pass on. Philanthropic contributions, artistic and creative works. That's from recipe cards to artwork, to jewelry and other ideas, monuments and infrastructure. You guys mentioned that. So what are some of the intangible? Those are the easy ones. What are intangibles? Confidence, opportunity, the lessons we taught our children, service, impact we've had on others, personal time with family, self-reliance. Yeah, I mean, all of those are things when you walked in and you said, we're going to go to a thing on legacy, it's the intangibles we didn't always think about. And yet, I would say those have some of the most lasting impact on people. So we have values and beliefs, being able to pass that on to a generation. Knowledge and wisdom, culture and social influence. So that's not just what do my kids think of me, but how did I change my community? How did I change politics? How did I change thought processes? Reputation and character lasts on. Relationships and connections. So as you think of your 6 words, be thinking, what are the tangible and the intangible ways that you would like to be remembered 100 years from now? Why legacy matters. Personal fulfillment. I think that's one of the larger ones. We're not just giving a legacy because we're altruistic, selfless individuals. I would say you get something back. There is a personal gain by trying to look out to others and make a difference. Influence on future generations. Clearly, you are impacting with the idea that your thought today, and you may do it in group, it may not just be yours, but yours in community or yours individually lasts and makes a difference. Societal impact, we have positive changes. Often it starts with a legacy idea that we clean up the oceans or that we improve the barrier reef. Emotional and psychological benefits, and those are both for those who are impacted and ourselves. Studies have shown that when you are serving others, you get endorphins back. It doesn't have to just be running. That just giving increases that. Singing, by the way, one of the largest ones in community, not necessarily a legacy, although it can be, is one of the biggest creators of endorphins. And so singing in community works. And then encouragement of lifelong learning and growth. That just what you're doing here through the enrichment program is a piece of legacy. So if we look at types of legacy, this is kind of some concept work that revolves around that 6-word idea, that 6-word bibliography or biography moving forward.
Ernest Hemingway, legend has it, was once challenged to write a 6-word story, and he came back with the following haunting tale. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. A few years back, there was a call out from an online magazine for a 6-word memoir. What would it be like for individuals to write their life story in 6 words? One of the ones that touched me the most came from a 9-year-old girl. Her mother tells the story about how they heard the call out on National Public Radio for this 6-word story. And the daughter went home and spent 2 hours in her bedroom. And the mother couldn't imagine what she was going to come down with. When she came down the stairs and she read it to her mother, she read this: cursed with cancer, blessed with friends. Could you imagine a 9-year-old girl writing that as her 6-word life story? So what does this have to do with leadership? My guess is that most leaders think about strategy. They think about their business. They think about where they want their business to go. I wonder how many leaders think about their own strategy, their own legacy, if you will, how they want to be remembered. My guess is not as many leaders pour that into who they are than in what they want for their business. So I was haunted by this 6-word story. I was haunted by this 9-year-old girl's 6-word memoir. And I challenged myself with, could I in 6 words talk about what my legacy is, how I wanted to be remembered as a person and as a leader? And I thought about it, and I came back with these 6 words for myself. Left the pile higher every day. And here's where that comes from. I once heard a gentleman tell a story about his family going on vacation in a small cabin in a wooded area, and the cabin had a fireplace. And he said, when they went out to get firewood, there was a tiny little sign above the firewood, and it said this: if you're able, please leave the pile a little higher. And he said the amount of firewood was astounding. So for me, and what I hold myself accountable to is, how can I leave the pile higher with the human beings that I meet every day, at home, at work, with my clients, with my community?
Yeah, what do you think of that? Yeah, I think she does a beautiful job, and I actually love the idea of leave the pile a little higher. I mean, that says so much. How about that first one, looking at a story and having for sale baby shoes never worn? What do you think of that? Not as a legacy statement, but how does that hit you? Sad. Yeah, do you want to know the story? Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I don't know the story. This is Hemingway, but what an amazing. I mean, it gives me tingles that I think about. You know, what did they die at birth? What was the story? Why were those shoes never worn? And as a legacy, I think that's what we want to do as well, is we want to, especially if you're looking at this 3 to 6 word statement, what is the essence? What is it that about that statement that someone would say, oh, tell me more? Just like that first where we say, for sale, baby shoes never worn. You want to know the story. So if you purposefully, intentionally look at your life, and it can be aspirational, by the way. I have mine. I'll share it at the end. It's nothing special. And it's very aspirational because you may go, yeah, dude, you're not there yet. And that's okay. I'm not there yet either. I mean, for all of us, our story's not over. We're just entering a new chapter. And we have now the life expectancy to hope for a long chapter. And how do I want to be remembered? How can my time turn into bettering people, society, groups, grandchildren, all of that? So I want to try to look at the types of legacy, splitting it into 3 different areas: personal, professional, and community. And this one, by the way, you guys laugh when I go, it takes me about a week, about 40 hours to put together a lecture, and then frantically for 6 hours before I'm up here, I'm in the room playing with it. This did not exist 6 hours ago. So I had it in a different format, but it's this idea of personal legacy and these different aspects of it. So if we look at us personally, not professionally, not community-wise, but personally, what's our legacy, starting with values and beliefs, kind of coming around to the right, looking at our relationships and how that impacts our legacy, contributions and achievements, and onward. So if we start with values and beliefs, how do our values and beliefs impact legacy? What do you think? Shapes our actions. Yeah, I would say without a core values, well, I would argue everyone has a core value system, and we act on it whether we know it or not. So I think we have one. What else? Sets an example. Other ideas? All right, so this is what the experts say, that values and beliefs are the core principles and ethics that guide your actions and decisions. These form the moral foundation of your legacy. And that's better or worse. I mean, it is who we are, and we can say this is our value, this is our value, and this is our value, but everybody's watching. And people can tell what your real values are. I don't always like that about myself, but yeah, I mean, because I'm like this, but in real life I'm clearly not. And so you find these different aspects of your core values that come out. What about relationships? How do they impact or impact legacy? Yes. A richness in life to work with other people. Yeah. Most of the people you have, yeah. I mean, how is our legacy enacted? Through relationships. And so whether that's school relationships, whether it's work relationships, whether it's family relationships, whether it's Viking World Cruise relationships, that all of those relationships matter. And so the connections and bonds you build with family, friends, and community, strong, positive relationships contribute to a lasting impact. So that's a point. How about contributions and achievements? Does that belong here? Well, oh, all right. So there should be that it actually radiates to all of these different areas and outside the circle as well. All right. What else? What else about contributions and achievements? It feels a little selfish to me when because I've been talking about this is all external, but all of a sudden this one, when I read those words, it's like, well, my accolades and my achievements, how do those impact legacy? But tangible accomplishments such as career achievements, creative works, and community service that demonstrate your impact on the world. So that's almost a feedback loop, that if you are accomplishing what you want, you're going to start to see that in achievements, and that's going to give you that feedback to go on. And if you're not accomplishing what you think in your legacy, then it allows you to move, change, and grow. Traditions and practices. Family dinners, how does that impact? Okay, so it's both an enactment part, but it's also, I would argue, even more family dinners. I mean, family dinners are a time that everyone knows this is family, and you pour into each other with those conversations. I think that's a major part. Prac- yeah, holidays. And these are legacies that go down. My grandmother said that on Christmas Eve, it's all about the grandchildren. And I, being the grandchildren, was really happy about this. And so my grandmother said, "What is your favorite food?" And I said, "Mac and cheese." And went to my sister, said, "What is your favorite food?" And she said, "Clam chowder." And these two do not go together. But on Christmas Eve, we ate clam chowder and mac and cheese every year from when I was like 4 until, well, this year. And my grandmother has been dead for over a decade. And yet that tradition where she asked my sister and I what we like, and my sister now has great grandchildren, and she on Christmas Eve still has mac and cheese and clam chowder. No one likes mac and cheese. Well, I guess everybody likes mac and cheese, but it's because of tradition. And what does that story mean? My grandmother lives. This is one of her legacies. And that when we do it, all of my nieces and nephews on my sister's side think of me. I'm not there, but they think of Uncle Brian, and they think of Grandma Alice. And so traditions are a great way that it lives on. Let's see, family or cultural traditions that you establish or uphold, passing them on to future generations. And that's the beautiful part. Yes. And it can be religious as well. Absolutely can be. This can be spiritual, it can be religious, it can be secular, but it crosses all boundaries, and it's all about how we share. And there is something really comforting in the idea that we do this every year, or we do this every Sunday when we all have dinner together. If we move on to stories and memories, what do we think on that one? Oh, I think that's awesome. I hadn't even thought of that. That this idea that music, so often, I mean, I'll change it. That's a little too much self-disclosure. There are songs, and they put you right back where you were. I hear some songs, and I'm 16 again. You know, it's just amazing. Yeah, and that's part of legacy, especially when we share that as well. So in another, as far as stories and memories, that becomes part of family culture and family lore. And yet, the hard part is what happens if we don't share them. Yeah, my mom died 2 years ago. And I don't have a lot of regrets, but I regret that I didn't put the time in to film her stories. I know some of them are written down, some of them aren't, but she's now gone, and when I go, those stories are gone for my grandchildren. And yet, how do we keep these stories and these memories? And that's that idea of, retelling stories over generations and generations to be able to live on. And then if we look at mentorship and guidance, any thoughts there? Investing in the future. Yeah, I mean, teaching is a form of mentoring. And whether that's in an institutional or industrialized setting of teachers in schools, or in work, or in our ability to mentor others. Philanthropy and community involvement, thoughts? Yeah, giving back, paying forward, and that can be service that's paid. It can be contributions financially, but it's not just building the community pool. It is also planting the community garden and being able to be part. And then if we look at documentation and communication, why is that important? It may not have happened. You don't know. If it's not on Facebook, it didn't really happen. Yeah. What else? Nope. Pass on history. Other ideas? Creating a lasting record. Yeah, I mean, that's where I wish I had done with my mom. I thought there's one more that I'm looking for. Any other ideas? It's our feedback loop. If we are able to document and communicate the legacy, we can then make changes to it and revise. And so as I kind of work around, these are my buckets that I think impact legacy personally. We also have professional legacy. How is that different than personal? What types of things would be in this graph? Professional, you share with others. Personal, not so much. All right, what else? Changing lives. Changing organizations. Yeah, I mean, if you work at IBM and you put in processes that they use beyond you, you have changed the organization. Other thoughts? Breaking a glass ceiling. Yeah, that can be really important, whether it's ethnically or racially or gender-wise, being able to make changes that outlive you in the organization. What else? Professional, can be personal. Yeah, it can as well. So let's see. We've got leadership and influence. That idea that leading an organization forward makes changes, setting vision. Innovation and achievements, that is both personal and corporately. If you can take your corporation from one level to another, that accolade is part of your personal legacy, but also the business. Mentorship and development still there. Reputation and integrity. You can do that both internally, personally in an organization, or you can set the organization's reputation. Knowledge and expertise, organizational impact, network and relationships, philanthropy and social responsibility, sustainability and innovation. Is there anything we've missed that you think of when you think of your career, or you think of an entrepreneurial business you might have started, or you think of just a corporation you deal with? Are there ways that it has legacy? DEI? What's that? Oh, sorry. Just see how I would respond to it. It's like, what? I've been on the ship way too long. I don't know about these things. What else? All right. So if we look at culturally, how is that different? If we look at community, what types of legacy exist in community? Diversity. All right, so we have cultural preservation and promotion is one. It's this idea that actively preserving and promoting cultural traditions, languages, and practices within the community. So we live in community. Many of us have homes in communities, and how are we going to make a difference? Or we live in the larger city community. How does all of that work? Community engagement and involvement, a great way to serve. I think serving in a community is one of the easiest ways to make a difference and create legacy. Education and knowledge sharing, that's both mentoring, but one that I love in community, and this is something that Nancy and I talked about with my grandkids, is the ability to go into school and just read to a kindergarten class is an easy way. It fits in service, but it also fits here in that education and knowledge sharing, our ability to just go beyond ourselves. We have time now to do that. Social cohesion and inclusivity, leadership and advocacy, storytelling and documentation. Again, notice how documentation keeps coming up. Yeah. Right. Cultural competency. Yeah, that idea of it's professional, but it's also community. Being able to step across cultural barriers, I think, is really important. Environmental stewardship comes into that as well. So if we look at developing, choosing to serve is one way that we can develop legacy, living a life focused outward on others more than ourselves. And I think that's one of those hard things to look at in the mirror sometimes. But this idea of not, it's not a life of austerity where all of a sudden you're going to give up all of your worldly pleasures and do only something. But how can you incorporate that in fun ways into your lifestyle? Realizing your potential. When I first saw this in an article, I was a little surprised because that's back on me. It's how do I realize, but it's saying that we each have undeveloped potential. And by realizing that potential, we're improving our legacy, investing in the lives of others, listening and learning, treating people with dignity. And that legacy isn't something you leave behind. It is a way of life. And that spoke to me because often I am so goal mark driven that I go, all right, my legacy is I'm going to get that check mark. And it's like, no, this is one of those things that is both a journey and a destination. It's how are we working with that. So if we look at planning, I had 10. I made it 5 steps on how to move and develop character. So legacy. Number 1 is values and goals. So the first thing we have to do is sit down and look at what are our values, what are our goals, what things do we want to pass on. So it's that kind of planning phase where we look realistically internally on what our values and goals that we want to be. Some that we may go, that's not the one I want, and I know it's in me, and I'm going to try to put that one over here while I reach out aspirationally and grab another set of values. Number 2 is lifelong learning and documentation, that we want to commit to grow. If we're not pouring into ourselves, we can't pour into others. So it's this idea of committing to personal development, and then as our feedback loop, writing something down. I'm horrible at this. Who is a journaler? Yeah, I am not. But I want to be. So maybe I can. I mean, one of our passengers, you've seen this in some of the posts, he has this amazing journal with watercolors and writing. I mean, I am just in awe of that. And so by being able to write down and kind of process our feelings, I know people who, when their father has died, they had a box of journals, and they found out more about their deceased father after than they did while he was alive because they were able to read his thoughts. And I find that really impactful. Number 3, community and relationships. Pour into those. Look at those around you. Look at those people that you appreciate and enjoy, and try to be part of their lives. Learn about them. Let them learn about you. It's not selfish to share a piece of you with them. Number 4, modeling and mentoring. Again, it's that whole idea of being able to work with others in a way that you build each other up. And then number 5, leave your mark, reflect, and then revise. So do some status checks. I love the end of the year. Again, love me a spreadsheet. And I sit down with a spreadsheet and I go, all right, financially, how did I do this year? What did I accomplish this year? I can put a lot into a spreadsheet. And then I sit down and I do kind of make my goals. They're not resolutions, but they are, what do I want next year to look like? And so being able to leave your mark and then reflect on what that mark was, is it the one you want? And then revise behavior accordingly. And so if we look at those 6 words, does anybody have theirs? I see a lot of no, don't call on me. Yes, I see a hand. What? Don't get shy now. He loved God, family, friends, everyone. Awesome. That is awesome. Any other thoughts? Yeah. Improving the quality of life of others. That's a gold star right there. That's improving the quality of life of others. What else? Yeah. Authentic life inside and out. That's it. All right, that's another A. That's great. What else? Any other thoughts? So mine was he made a difference. I know it's only 4, but I don't know if I have in some lives or not in others, but I would love that when folks look back, they say he made a difference. So be thinking about what you want your legacy to be. It doesn't have to be 6 words, but how do you want the world, society, family, define your audience? How do you want to truly make a difference in others, and what does that look like? And I wanted to stop with Maya Angelou. She has an incredible quote that kind of cuts through all of this and says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said." Not always. I've had that come back. But they will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that's one of the areas that we didn't talk a lot about. But that idea that who we are pouring into others, were we kind? Were we compassionate? Did we build them up or tear them down? But who we are in the reflection of others, how we make them feel, truly leaves a legacy. So with that, have a wonderful dinner, and thank you guys for coming.